Welcome. I'm glad you tuned in to the first video of the series, which will be a step-by-step roadmap as I develop my newest game, Rescue. I'll share with you how easy it is to develop your own game in 2025. So now, you've answered the question why you want to make a game, and you've decided on a game engine, and you've decided on your genre, then you're probably pretty serious about moving forward with creating an amazing new game. So it's probably time to consider your GDD. It can help you navigate the remaining decisions and deadlines you'll face during your game development journey, concept to launch. Oh, what's a GDD, you ask? GDD stands for Glowing Drones of Doom, of course. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's your game design document. A GDD is a record of decisions and deadlines to help you stay on target throughout your game development process. Some developers believe this is a thing of the past, while others believe it is a crucial step. If you have a large team, you really do need a GDD. It keeps everyone on the same path. But what if you are a small team or a solo developer? Your GDD is a design tool that helps you answer some basic questions about your game. It's a roadmap of your progress and sets the scope of your game. It does not have to be a huge 1,500-page document. I mean, you're not trying to sneakily slip something through at the last minute when you know your team will not have time to read it or not want to read it. Know what I'm saying? A short 2-page guide is probably all you need in the early stage of your game. I know you're chomping at the bit to get to the fun stuff. I always was too. But trust me, consider a few benefits of having a GDD. It provides proof of concept, which can be shown to publishers or for funding resources. It forces you to think through your decisions. It lists game features so that you can stay focused and not fall prey to scope creep. It lists the resources and assets that you have available that will support your mechanics and your features, and other things. What are the cons? Now, the only con I can really think of is that it'll make your brain hurt because it is a lot of hard thinking. It takes a lot of time, but in the end, it will save you time. Trust me. One of the most important things that you'll need for your GDD is your core gameplay loop and a strong hook, especially if you plan to apply for funding or talk to publishers, but I'll cover that in future videos. But what's your story? When do you need a story? Do you need a story? Your GDD should have a brief description of the intended story. And so one question you might also have right about now is narrative and story the same thing? All games have a narrative. Some games don't have a story. Narrative and story are different, but it's a very subtle difference, and sometimes it's hard to put your finger on it. A story is an account of incidents and events. Narrative is the choices around those story events, the relationships between the events, and in what order the events occur. So basically, narrative is the intersection of your game design and your storytelling. So when do you need your story? The answer may depend on how important the story is to your game. Some developers wait until the game is completely finished. Others write the story first. Regardless, it's important to know that your gameplay is more important than the story. It's a game, not a book. I wrote Rescue's story long before I considered turning it into a game. The story features a female protagonist. I am female, and it's easier for me to write from a female perspective. I also like the idea of portraying a strong female role model like the iconic Lara Croft Tomb Raider franchise. It's important to ensure that the gameplay comes first. The story should then support the player's experience. Since I wrote Rescue's story long before considering gameplay, I now have the challenge of designing a narrative to connect the story to the gameplay. I'll share more about Rescue's story in future videos. So now, I'll tell you some media that influenced Rescue's story though. So Rescue is influenced by some of my favorites. I'm a big fan of Supernatural. Rescue will be a supernatural thriller with some twists and turns and hopefully a bit of humor influenced by the Supernatural TV show. Supernatural has suspense, emotion, complex characters, intriguing lore, and lots of action. I love the idea of the brothers crossing the country and fighting monsters and saving people, the family business.
This is Dad's single most valuable possession. Everything he knows about every evil thing is in here. And he's passed it on to us. I think he wants us to pick up where he left off. You know, saving people, hunting things. The family business.
I'm also influenced by my favorite author, Dean Koontz. He is a fellow dog lover. If there is a canine star in his book, you can bet your life that they are something more than they seem.
DZ? No, that's not a word. It is not. Oh, what, you looked it up?
Rescue will star a female protagonist and her cunning canine companion who is far more than she seems. This is a very special dog who is vital to your survival and you to her. Now, some developers consider the theme to be even more important than the story. The theme is the first thing that will draw players to your game and hook them to the end. The theme is the central topic in your game. If something in your game breaks from your theme, it needs to go, no matter how much you love it. Rescue will be a supernatural thriller where the player character is tasked with hunting things, saving people, the family business.
I'll tell you what else helps. Killing as many evil sons of bitches as I possibly can.
Okie dokie, before you can get started in the Unity editor, you'll need to decide on your render pipeline. Will your game be 2D, 3D, stylized, realistic, low poly, hand-drawn, or something else? What resources do you have available to use in this game? Cinti works beautifully with Unity 6 URP, so that's the decision I made. So who are my characters? I like to put a cast of characters in my GDD. It helps me create complex characters with interesting relationships and backstories and helps me keep my story consistent. Rescue features a female protagonist. I looked at the female characters available in the Cinti assets that I have, and I chose one I like. But I wanted her to look a little bit different than just out of the box. Now, I'm not real skilled with Blender, but Cinti has tutorials that will help you make basic changes. I used Blender to add some color to her hair, her hat, and her armbands. I created a custom logo in Adobe Illustrator and added that logo to her shirt and changed the color a little bit. Yeah, I like her. I'm undecided as to how much customization I will allow the player to do. It's too early to think about that. Yeah, she'll do for now. Now the second most important character in the game is her cunning canine companion. I wanted a border collie, of course. They are athletic, intelligent, loyal, and mischievous. Perfect. So, problem. Cinti had a dog pack, but it didn't have a border collie. I asked them if they were going to add one. They said no. Red Deer had a perfectly cute border collie, but the art style did not completely match the Cinti style, especially the eyes. Well, dang. Okay, so I thought about just using the Red Deer low poly collie, but I feared that some gamers would complain. Gamers love consistency. I went ahead and decided to purchase both packages so that I could look at the dogs in the game environment next to the player character. As seen here, I had used Blender to change the Cinti's husky. I changed the markings to look a little bit more like a border collie, mainly like the tail and some of the markings on the body. I still like the Red Deer collie better. So I went back to Cinti's demo scene to see if I liked any of the other dogs better. That was when I noticed the wearables for the dog. Imagine my surprise and delight when one of the vests was a rescue vest. The game's name, Rescue, had already been approved by Steam months ago. How perfect! I've gotta love serendipity. But I still like the Red Deer low poly collie better. Okay, so maybe if I make her a little bit smaller? Yeah, I think that might be better. What do you think? Now, there are more items that you might need on your GDD. It's your GDD. You can put as much or as little as you want to. In this video, I covered information and decisions that you will need to get your Steam store page approved. Another commonly asked question, and the last one I'll cover in this video, is when should you start your Steam homepage? Most marketers and indie developers will tell you to get your Steam page up as soon as possible. One huge advantage to having a Steam page is that you have somewhere for people to see your game and start building a community.
At you with question number 3 here. When should I get my Steam page up? As soon as possible. This is official data from Valve. They said games that have a Steam page up for at least 6 months have a much better sales record. Much better. So get it up.
The most difficult thing about a successful game is getting seen. It's like tossing your game out into a vast ocean and hoping a diver swims by and sees it. You can use your Steam store page to point people to your game and start forming a community. Of course, you can't get your store page approved by Steam until you have certain graphical assets and information about your game.
Wait. You there. Step forward. Who are you?
Initially, you'll need your game name, genre, and style. Activate your Steam App ID by providing the game name and wait for Steam to approve that. Once you complete all these requirements, you can submit your store page for Steam's approval. There's a lot to consider, so let's get started.
Now, what do you need before you get your Steam page up? Here's a few things. 4 things. 1, you have to decide the genre. You got to know definitely that it's going to be a puzzle game or definitely a platformer. Don't get all wishy-washy with your genres later.
We've already talked about genre and style while creating our 2-page GDD. I chose RPG, subgenres action and third-person shooter for Rescue. So what's next?
Number 2, you decide the art style. You know what it's going to be. Is it going to be cute, wholesome, dark, grimdark, whatever it is, decide it. Doesn't have to be final art though.
We've also covered the art style and characters in the 2-page GDD. Chris goes on to say that you need a variety of gameplay screenshots. Steam does require 5 screenshots before you can submit your store page for Steam approval. Rescue is in early development, so I don't have those yet. I'll cover those later. The 4th item on Chris's list is a game trailer. The game trailer is optional for your store page approval, so I'll save that for later. There are a few more things required before you can submit your store page for Steam approval. You must have a game name, a logo, and some graphical assets like a hero image and a game capsule. Anyway, choosing a name for your game is really hard, so let's get into naming your game.
Naming your game is the hardest part of game development that no one ever talks about.
I agree. Naming your game is the hardest thing to do. I tend to procrastinate about not fun tasks, so when do you need your game's name? There are no hard rules. Some large teams may wait until very late in development. I prefer to name my games as soon as possible. People get attached to names. It's easier to talk about your game if you have a name. And you can start building a community around the game by establishing a recognizable name and logo, a brand. Importantly, you must have a game name before you can get your Steam page approved. You should wait to name the game until you know what the gameplay will be. You can change your name after it's approved by Steam, but it is not easy. What's in a name? How do you decide on a game name?
First consideration is to find a name that is easy to pronounce and spell. This allows for word of mouth to spread as easily as possible. If Twitch streamers and YouTube creators can pronounce it, they can properly communicate to others about your great game. If bloggers and reviewers can spell it, they can write copy singing the praises of your title. Getting the word out about your game is hard enough. It's a smart idea to not compound the challenge by having a game name that can be mispronounced or misspelled in a number of ways.
I agree 100%, and I learned the hard way. I changed the name of my first Steam game 3 times as the gameplay, genre, and art style changed. It was not fun to do that, and I'm still not happy with the name. The title is too long, it did not work well as a logo, and the character name is easily misspelled and mispronounced. How did I go about choosing a name for Rescue? I wanted a short, memorable name that also described the game. Not hard to do at all, right? I did some research and followed some recommendations as I chose the name Rescue. It's easy to spell and easy to pronounce. Easy. Is catchy and conveys what the game is about. Saving people hunting things, the family business, so it's descriptive. It's a verb and describes what the player will be doing. Rescue. You know that there is some sort of action involved, rescuing or being rescued. It's short and it looks good as a logo. And it conveys a feeling. There is a feeling of urgency implied when you must rescue someone or be rescued. I decided on Rescue as a one-word name that tells the player the pace of the game, fast-paced, urgency, rescue. Sounds dangerous. You must rescue someone or be rescued. It's a verb that tells you what you'll be doing, rescuing people, hunting things. So yeah, that's a lot of heavy lifting for a one-word title. Okie dokie, wow, we are almost done with this video. You'll need a logo before you can get your Steam page approved. I learned a lot from mistakes that I made on my first game on this topic as well. First, I had no clue gamers would be so aware and so critical of the font that you use in a game title. Don't even consider a generic boring font. Don't over Photoshop it either. I changed the color, style, and font in Jackie's Wacky Adventures title more times than I care to remember. It's not easy because you have to change every graphical asset that Steam requires. You have to change it in social media, websites, and on and on. I approached the logo much differently for Rescue. I started with pencil and paper and sketched out a few ideas. Then I used Adobe Illustrator to hand draw the game's text logo as vector art. This made my logo text unique and gave it some personality. I chose the text color from Cinti's color palette. Now the logo looks like it belongs with the game. Okay, now I have a cool hand-drawn, unique logo consisting of the game's name, Rescue. I overlaid it on a gameplay screenshot and sent it out for user testing. I immediately got feedback. Looks good, but rescue what? What kind of game is this? Is this like that mobile game? So back to the drawing board. It is important to stress that my game is not a cozy mobile game like Pet Rescue Saga. I added claw marks to indicate danger, monsters, combat. The claws give a clue that the game will be a supernatural thriller, dangerous combat, not a cozy mobile game. As a side note here, it's always wise to user test everything and often and early and listen to that feedback. Finally, a game capsule of various sizes are required by Steam before your store page can be approved. I used a demo scene from Cinti and mocked up a typical gameplay experience, placed the logo on top, and voila, game capsule. Well, at least a placeholder for now. Okie dokie, that was a journey. Thank you to everyone who stayed with me until the end. It really helps make YouTube think I'm interesting and worthy. Hopefully some of the things that I've learned the hard way will help you. I've provided some links below. Be sure to like and subscribe to this channel if you want to go along on this journey with me. My primary focus is my day job and game development. Don't give up on me when the devlogs are few and far between. I'll get there when I have something interesting to show. For now, I'm always interested in learning from others. Please feel free to comment below. Bye for now. Thanks for watching.